Help is coming, decoding the Trump-Iran strategy. President Trump just posted, "Help is on its way" to the Iranian protesters. It's a kind of line that gets a lot of clicks, but for those of us watching, what does help actually look like in the next few days? When Trump takes a position and stops without providing anything more, then the US could be at the precipice of an unprecedented move. In Iran's case, here are three pieces and a final piece or end move that can be at play on the chessboard. Number one, the shadow internet. Tech is the weapon. First, the help is digital. We're talking about 50,000 Starlink terminals or more currently smuggled into the country since 2022 and activated as a shadow network. The regime, however, is using military-grade electronic warfare to jam them. But the US is reportedly looking at cyber sabotage to take out the IRGC's throttling systems. Help here means keeping the videos of the crackdown flowing out to the world and keep the protest campaign coordinated and united. Number two, economic isolation. Trump just announced a 25% universal tariff on any country that does business with Iran. This is aimed squarely at China, Turkey, and India. The message is pick a market. If you want to trade with the US, zero out your Iranian oil contracts today. It's designed to bankrupt the regime so they literally can't afford to pay the militias. Strike funding, actively facilitating strike funds through crypto or covert channels to support Iranian workers, like the bazaar merchants and oil workers. If the workers can afford to stay home for 3 weeks, the economy halts, and the state loses its ability to fund Basij militias. Number three, the red line, the kinetic option. Finally, there's the military piece. We've seen personnel being moved out of the Al Udeid in Qatar and the carrier group sliding into position. Trump's red line isn't about nuclear centrifuges anymore. It's about executions. He signaled that if the hangings start, the airstrikes start. The red line, 800 executions. The White House just confirmed they are tracking roughly 800 scheduled executions. Trump's good authority claimed that the killings have stopped. If Iran pauses the hangings, the strikes stay shelved. If they proceed, the posture shifts to active. The degrade, not invade order of battle. The military options aren't about boots on the ground, the legacy mistake. It's about infrastructure paralysis. Targeting the repression nodes. We're talking about precision strikes on IRGC regional command centers and the intelligence ministry buildings in Tehran. If the brain of the crackdown can't communicate with the hands in the street, the regime loses its ability to coordinate mass arrests. The no-drive zone. This is the game changer. The US is reviewing options to use drones to disable the transport buses and armored vehicles the IRGC uses to move the Basij militias between cities. If the regime can't move its elite forces from town to town, they lose the periphery. Airspace control. Iran briefly closed its airspace on January 14 for a reason, with a U.S. carrier strike group moving in from South China Sea and personnel being thinned out at Al Udeid regional headquarters in Qatar. The U.S. is signaling military action is on the table. The flip factor, the most subtle part of the help. The US is reportedly betting on the Artesh, regular army. Unlike the ideological IRGC or Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps that reports directly and protects the supreme leader, the Artesh is seen as a legacy force that might defect if they see a credible US shield. The goal of a strike is to create a security vacuum that forces local commanders to choose: stand with the protesters or go down with the clerics. The verdict: Trump isn't promising a 10-year war. He's considering a 72-hour kinetic intervention designed to break the camel's back and let the internal uprising take its course. The final chess piece: booting up the shadow government. Okay, this is no Venezuela because there are multiple factions, ancestral groups, multiple militia groups, and distinct regions. So it's more like an Afghanistan than narco politics and a strongman rule. Religious ideologies common in Middle East affairs also don't help. There is a convergence of approach, though, in both if any intervention is taken. That is to keep the bureaucracy, especially the groups that keep the economy afloat, oil production, utilities, and the formal military, rather than dissolve or eliminate the entire organizational infrastructure. Okay. The big tent approach may also be at play, but the difference is the plan to have a central native leader that the various factions will respect and follow, at least in the interim, without foreign enforcement. It is also a ground up or grassroots first approach where the structure is inclusivity by way of regional autonomy and governance, something similar to federal model. How it works: leaders on the ground. These are the union heads like the truck drivers union, the student activists who haven't left Iran. They are the face of the shadow government. The technocrat flip. Rumors are swirling that U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff is in back-channel talks with high-level officials from the Pezekian administration, the current president under the Ayatollahs. The goal: keep the people who run the central bank and the power grid so that the country doesn't go dark the day after. The Diaspora Bridge. Figures like Pahlavi, the son and heir of the fallen Shah of Iran, and organized opposition groups like the Global NCRI, an offshore Iranian community that has organized to take over and run every branch of the Iranian government when the regime collapses, are being framed as transitional facilitators, not permanent rulers, to provide international legitimacy. The Venezuela model gambit. Remember what happened with Maduro earlier this month? The US is applying that playbook here. They are naming a board of peace whose members will be revealed soon. This is a psychological warfare masterstroke. It tells the rank and file IRGC soldier, there is a new boss. If you stop shooting now, there is a place for you in the new Iran. The Cyrus Marshall Plan. The shadow government already has a budget. The US is holding billions of frozen Iranian assets along with other countries. The plan isn't to keep it, it's to release it as an economic shock the moment the transition starts. This is the ultimate help: direct cash transfers to families to stabilize the rial, which has collapsed by 50% since December. This gives the interim government a working budget from day one as well. As of the writing and publishing of this episode in January 19 or 20, thousands of protesters have been killed based on reporting by international monitors. The protests have simmered down and have been driven out largely by the regime. Public executions have been denied and or halted based on current government pronouncements. Smaller protests are still being reported. In the recent press speech of Reza Pahlavi in the last 24 hours, he emphasized unity, international support for the Iranian people, and called for continuity. So what do you think? Is this the time for the counter-revolution to finally happen that forces the Ayatollahs to step down after nearly 50 years? Let me know. Thank you for watching.